Hi, my name is Dana Cassidy. I'm a student in public speaking and I will be presenting my speech today. Here's my ID. And I do not have a note card with me. And if everyone in the audience could have their cameras on and wave and confirm that you are all above the age of 18. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Picture yourself back in high school as a senior. You're about to graduate, go to college, or begin in the workforce. You're leaving with some Algebra 2, physics, maybe some foreign language requirements, but then it hits you. You don't know the first thing about personal finance. This is something that has happened to me and many other Americans. According to a 2019 study published in the Swiss Journal of Economics and Statistics by researcher Anna Maria Lusardi, titled Financial Literacy and the Need for Financial Education, she found that a lot of advanced democracies, such as the US, fail when it comes to personal finance, but that one of the key ways to fix this is through education reform. This and many other reasons are why I'm here today to call for action and express the need for educative policy reform to mandate personal finance legislation in order to graduate from high school and earn a diploma. I will be outlining this call for action and need in key ways. First, by pointing out the need for financial literacy, by showing that a lack thereof increases economic turmoil and leads to a greater divide in racial and income inequality. Then, by visualizing how having financial literacy and personal finance skills leads to greater satisfaction and happiness in one's life. And then putting out a call for action by showing the critical need for legislative policy reform to mandate this in high schools. So these are tips that I have learned along the way and learned about policy reform as someone who has never taught personal finance while they were in high school. So follow along as I show you why personal finance should be mandatory in terms of high school education. And please move on to the next slide, which should outline information on the current state of financial literacy in our country. As one can see, many people do not have the financial literacy skills they need, and that a lack of personal finance skills leads to a greater wealth gap and more racial and economic divide. According to a 2019 study done by researchers at the Milken's Institute, found that 67% of high-income individuals have financial literacy skills, but that 47% of low-income individuals don't. And similarly, in a different study, according to a 2020 peer-reviewed report from researchers at the TIAA Institute, found that in a study done on test questions about financial literacy, white respondents answered 55% of the questions correctly, while Black respondents only answered 38% of the questions correctly. These studies and reports further my point on how income and racial divides exist because of personal finance and the lack of the education of it. And unfortunately, it's not taught in all school systems. According to a 2010 national study by researchers at the University of Wisconsin, found that only 29% of teachers teach any form of personal finance education. These are unacceptable numbers and why there is such a need to mandate it on a legislative level. And please move on to the next slide, which should outline information regarding why personal finance skills leads to higher satisfaction and happiness in life. Having money management skills and the ability to allocate one's resources monetarily allows for a happier, healthier life. According to a 2021 article in Psychology Today by Dr. Jeffrey Bernstein, found that children who are taught money management skills lead to have higher happiness, less stress, and better emotional health in their adulthood. And similarly, in a 2022 article by journalist Ryan Williams in Fortune.com, found that having personal finance education reduces the wealth gap and increases opportunities in more diverse spaces. Picture this. You have a high schooler that wants to pursue a career in the fine arts. One may argue that this high schooler is pursuing a path that might not make them financially successful. But this high schooler is graduating with personal finance education. They know how to budget, save, and how to plan for retirement. So this student will be successful in any career they want and are able to follow their dreams in pursuing one in the fine arts. This should be the standard, and everyone should have the opportunity to have those resources so they can pursue their dreams and live their best life. And please move on to the next slide, which should outline information regarding a call for action on the legislative level. As you can see, by the points that I have laid out, there is a critical need for legislative reform on state and national levels. There are already education requirements in place for those to graduate high schools, such as a certain amount of math, English, and foreign language requirements. So it wouldn't be a stretch to implement personal finance education. On top of that, this is a bipartisan legislation, meaning both Democrat and Republican lawmakers agree that this is a necessity. In fact, according to a 2022 article published in the Tampa Bay Times by journalist Jeffrey Solojek, said that last month, Florida lawmakers passed a law saying that all high school students need to have at least one semester of personal finance education in order to graduate, which goes to show that this is in reach and absolutely tangible. So it's important to push for reform, call your lawmakers, and get the word out about personal finance education. And please move on to the final slide, which should outline my conclusion. So let's circle back to the beginning. Think about yourself in high school again as that senior, but this time you're graduating with personal finance skills. You know how to budget and save and take on the world with whatever you want to do. This and all the reasons I have laid out prove why personal finance education needs to be mandated legislatively as an educated policy reform in order to graduate high school. To re-summarize my main points, we have a high need for it with financial literacy being something that is lacking in our democracy and increases the wealth gap. We see that having personal finance skills increases happiness and satisfaction in one's life. And there's a clear call for action on a legislative level in order to reform this in schools, and it's already been done in a state, showing that this is tangible. So push for action, push for change, because everyone deserves to have financial freedom and happiness. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Does anybody have any questions about what personal finance education might entail?
Yeah. How in depth of personal finances would you go? I mean, are you talking about going all the way through how to do your taxes, how to fill out, or is you just basic stuff like how to fill out a textbook?
Great question. Personal finance can go all the way to taxes, but stop at having a checkbook. I think the big problem to begin with is that there is little to no mention of money or expenses when it comes to high school educations, as seen in the peer-reviewed study with only 29% of teachers saying that they teach any kind of personal finance education. I personally believe that it should go all the way to filing taxes or having a base understanding of how to do so, and simply leaving high school with or with the understanding of having a checkings account, savings account, knowing what a 401k versus Roth IRA account is, and having an understanding of debt and how to manage credit. So that way when they go to college, and if they want to pursue something further, such as economics, maybe they found that they have an interest in that as well. But they can do whatever they want with the base knowing that they will be able to do so.
I have a question. In what year do you think that this should be a class for students, or should it be like every year of high school?
Great question. I highly recommend that students probably take this in their junior or senior year, in the same way that maybe some students might not take calculus at all throughout high school, or algebra 2 on a standard level is, I believe, taught junior year, but some people take it earlier on. I think junior and senior gives people the opportunity to be able to take it as an elective without feeling too much pressure, but also take it soon enough to graduation that they retain those skills.
What do you think, as a young person, where do you think you would have benefited, just looking back retroactively, the most from, like what topic do you think you really would have benefited learning in high school in a personal finance context?
Yeah, I think I would have benefited from fully knowing how to budget properly in high school. I didn't have a savings account till I was older or properly know how to save it. And I also had no understanding of how to allocate my income in terms of, my apologies, in terms of allocating for savings, rent, groceries, and actually knowing how to properly budget. I also did not know until I actually began looking for jobs and really looking into what a salary entails, how much are taken out for taxes, which I think is something that is important for students to know leaving high school and going immediately into a job and whatnot. Because for some people, if their objective is making more money than they like in another career, which for some people that is, and that is totally fine. Maybe they would realize that a certain career would allow them to expense their salary better or have a better lifestyle for them. But that's the magic of personal finance, right? It can help you with so many things, and simply just being able to follow your dreams or figure exactly what that dream is, because there's so much to it. And that's why it's so great. It's a win-win situation no matter what the use is for. Awesome. And do we have any final questions? Great. Thank you so much for listening to my speech today, and I hope you learned a bit more and are a bit persuaded on why personal finance should be mandatory in high schools. Thank you.